we'll just do some introductions. Shamil and I will. Then we'll kind of walk you through the concept of what we're talking about today in terms of brand experience and why it's important. Then Shamil will give us an overview of the system that we've developed together and how it works. And then we'll have a quick summary and time for question and answer at the end. Of course, as we're going along, if you want to put some questions in the Q&A, you feel free to do so, and we'll take it from there. So my name is Greg Silverman. I'm the Global Director of Brand Economics at INTERBRAND. My team works on the top 100 brands reports as well as the country reports we do about brand valuation and protecting and building up that franchise. At the same time, we also do a lot of work consulting to help people improve their brand valuation and understand the root causes of how brand value evolves and how to improve it. And so that led us to our partnership with Clootrack and Shamil.
Hi, everyone. Myself, Shamil. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Clootrack. Clootrack is a customer experience analytics platform. We help businesses to drive outcomes from voice of the customer. So INTERBRAND has been into brand economics for decades, and we are more into AI and voice of customer. And we came together and we built a brand experience operating system. So that's fascinating. And in today's session, we'll be going with actual data and an actual demonstration of how this has been implemented, what's the kind of outcomes you can drive from it, and how actually it looked like. So we'll dig deep into it. And of course, you can reach out back to us for any kind of data or hands-on access to it if you want.
Yeah, terrific. So we're talking about brand experience and how to turn it into measurable value. Just to give you a quick introduction, a little bit about INTERBRAND. We've been around for 50 plus years. The brand economics practice has been over a quarter century. But anytime we work as a firm, we're really trying to give our clients the confidence to make iconic moves that improve their brand. And we do that by combining these three lenses that you see at the bottom of the page: economics, how people think and behave, and the experiences that they create. And so this fusion of those points of view has really accelerated over the last couple of years because we've really been able to add not only our existing frameworks, but move into what we would call kind of an AI native space where we're composing solutions by looking at everything contextually at all times. And this is really born out of our practice and our kind of longitudinal historical view about how brands create value. We've been tracking brand value for 25 years using the same framework that we've designed around how brand performs and what role it plays in the marketplace. And I think what's compelling is looking back over those 25, 26 years, we've found that the brands that follow this framework tend to produce better shareholder returns. Even private firms on exit would say they've done much better. And I think this notion of tying brand management to share price and revenue growth has been really a tremendous idea. And when you think of those brands as a basket of stocks, it's outperformed most of these indexes. But what we've looked at most recently is, while that chart before was kind of a correlation, is brand value causal? And we have found a causal link. We're going to be publishing a paper next week that says every increase in brand value of 1% yields a 0.8 increase in share price. And so we started to look at that and say, okay, when we think about brand valuation as a methodology for measuring brand management, where can we continue to improve, right? What's the innovation? So when we think of brand valuation, it's really scoring brand management. And we think of brand management as a combination of how we're designing experiences to meet human needs. And what brand strength and role of brand tell us is how well does the brand protect future earnings? And the role of brand tells us, what percentage of the decision that customers are making is based on the brand. And ultimately that yields financial results. So today we're really focusing on brand strength because we see that a lot of the marketing teams, comms teams, brand teams really have a top-down view of brand. and often looking through our brand strength framework, which is based on these 10 dimensions, right? 6 of them being external, like how do we engage and how do we show up in the world? How relevant are we? But also we've added, and it's the only brand valuation framework that does that, the internal factors. How well are we aligned as a company? How well do our employees represent us? Do we have empathy and agility in the market? And when we looked at this kind of top-down tradition around brand strength scoring, we really started to see that the tempo, the pulse of brand experience was moving much faster. Always like to make this joke that everything's compared to the responsiveness of the iPhone, right? That's become the standard for how fast I think everything should be fixed and how seamless it should run. But we've all, I think, as an industry, focused on using market research to discover where our brand and how the experience was performing. And we found that that was probably a little bit too slow, maybe a little costly, and oftentimes, because it was episodic, didn't catch the things that needed to be caught. So as many as you know, Interbrand is part of Omnicom. And what's happened after this kind of consolidation that Omnicom's created is that we have at our disposal a much stronger technical platform that allows us to use all of Omni, use client data when we have it, leverage the Interbrand database, and bring in partners like Clootrack to help us get greater granularity and resolution on how things are working. And I just wanted to talk about why did we pick Clootrack, because I think they're offering, and we've created a partnership that's a bit different than any other tools that we've seen out there. So principally, what we like about this platform is it's really telling us insights around brand strength based on customer reactions. We've been able to program our brand strength score, which we know is correlated to revenue and share price increases, into the system. It's global, 95 different languages. You'll see in a few minutes that it delivers action based on like best practices that it observes in other parts of the ecosystem that it's measuring. It's not syndicated. It's very proprietary. We have great data controls around it. People who set these things up for themselves, can be really assured. And it's certainly a lower cost and more continuous than traditional research. So we're closer to market reality and not missing those kinds of trends. So what we wanted to start talking about is how we've developed this solution together. And I think this is a new concept in a sense about how data is managed, right? So, Shamil and team have built this kind of data orchestration where what you're going to see today is based on public data, but there's also a capability to integrate to internal data. So just managing the data and getting it all in one place, which is often one of the biggest challenges we see. There's a lot of automated APIs and different MCPs that we can use to bring things together. And the benefit for all of us in our partnership was Clootrack already had an understanding layer of how to take all this data together and give a voice of the customer point of view. What we've worked together is to embed our brand strength scoring into a reasoning layer that says, okay, how do these individual things we're seeing occur in the marketplace ladder back to brand strength, ladder back to brand strategy, and ultimately business outcomes that the contextual actions you're going to see and what you can do about it are on a trajectory that helps the brand meet its ambitions. So that's been very exciting. It's a SaaS platform that we kind of use as a white glove service for our clients and in partnership together. And we've taken an opportunity to just go look at the retail industry, looking at 3 different brands. We picked retail because we think it has one of the more complicated ecosystems. Most of them are multi-channel. They have lots of different ways of building experiences, and we thought it might be a unique way. We would want to point out that we are able to use the system for B2B environments, for healthcare environments, because of the nature of the way the data is collected, and you can see kind of the types of sources, and those see more in the demo. we're really able to apply this in any brand setting that we have current clients. So, Shamil, I've done an introduction for you. I wonder if you want to take it away and show the demo or make any introductory comments on your part.
Thanks a lot, Greg. We will, dive deep into the platform right away. Let me share my screen. Can you all see my screen? I hope all of you can. Great.
Not yet. There we
How
go.
about now?
Yeah, I think you got it.
Yeah.
Always the most stressful moment in the presentation is does it work on the screen?
Absolutely, yeah. So let me dive into the platform. Before diving into the platform, just reiterating what Greg mentioned. If you look at brand value is made up of or driven by thousands of operational moments. But at the same time, when you look at companies evaluate brand value only once in a year or twice in a year. And not only that, if you go to a company and a team and ask them on a Monday morning, what should you be doing to improve your brand value? Generally, the answer would be unclear. So with this setup, what we have in terms of a brand experience operating system, we are trying to overcome that and make it actionable. Primarily operationalize the brand strength score of Interbrand, which has been proven, which has worked for decades right now, so that brands can take it for day-to-day actions. That's what can be done from this. So what I'll do right now is like walk you through the data, walk you through the dimensions of brand experience the platform looks through, and also show you what kind of actions it recommended with real data out here. So here we are looking at data from these three brands, Ulta Beauty, Sephora, and Sally. All of this data is coming from North America, US as a market. And this data we have collected from multiple different kinds of sources. So we have got data from stores, many of them, thousands of stores for these brands, consumer reviews, app reviews, employee experience, social media, retailer websites. So primarily we are looking at brand experience through multiple different touch points. So we have covered almost all of the touch points out here. And once we collect this data, what Clootrack does is Clootrack looks at this particular sets of interactions or experiences through multiple dimensions. I will walk you through the different dimensions we look into to this experience. So first one is we first look into the general experience of customers. So what I mean by that is when a customer comes in touch with a brand with in any of these touch points, what are the different experience factors they have? What are the experiences they go through? So what Clootrack does here is Clootrack goes through the conversations, which Greg shared earlier, around 27,000 of them. And then we identify what all experiences they are having. Like, for example, they are having employee contact, customer assistance, hair salon services, product recommendations, and so on. And what is special with Clootrack is we are able to identify these experience factors in an unsupervised fashion. What I mean by that is without anybody predefining, because experience varies from brand to brand, touch point to touch point, product to product, and so on. So despite anybody configuring it, the AI engine will be able to detect these automatically at the right level of granularity. And this gives you a very good picture about those thousands of operational moments customers go through. For example, let me show you what this means. So for example, here for payment and checkout for Sephora, it is 18.34. What that means is 18.34% of the people speaking about payment and checkout experience of Sephora are positive. So you know that they are not doing as great as Ulta or Sally. So now the next question comes to, if you want to really act on it, is what exactly under payment and checkout? So you can go further down. So you can see several different aspects here, general payment issues, staff behavior at payment, checkout speed, gift card transactions, and so on. So from the payment, we are drilling down to, yes, what's the next level of actionability? Now from here again, if you would like to further pinpoint exactly what's going wrong, you can go down to the customer journeys and see what's going wrong. So you can see in the gift card transaction alone, there is a streamlining of payment and refund required. There is an addressing of gift card activation issues which are out here. And again, from here, you can go down to the customer journeys. So we are looking at thousands of operational moments, identifying what are the experience factors, and we are putting a tree-like structure where you can go from top down so that you can identify what to act upon. So this is one dimension of looking at data. And this same dimension, of course, you can segment by multiple different factors, as you can see here. Now, let me go to the next dimension. This is the first dimension. The next dimension we look at is like how it has been trending over a period of time. So if you do a survey or if you employ any other methodologies, generally the trend of experience is very hard to capture. But what Clootrack does is that Clootrack is able to capture the trends of experiences ever, across the time period, and that too across factors and across different segmentation. That is second dimension of looking at data. Now, the third dimension of looking at data, what are the jobs your customers are trying to get done from your brand? Generally, customers get emotional, functional, and social jobs done. And what Clootrack identifies is, Clootrack identifies all those jobs they are trying to get done. And Clootrack ranks those jobs according to how well each of the brands are getting it done. So as you can see here, restore shopping confidence, enjoy meaningful interactions, choose products confidently. These are emotional jobs customers are trying to get done from beauty retail. And you can also see how they are ranked. Again, if you would like to see the specifics of what exactly to be improved in each one of them, you can go down and you can see the specifics as well, including the customer journeys. Another dimension of looking at data. Now, all these things we club together and we bring it together and correlate and look through the lens of brand strength score. That's where it all comes together. From bottom up, thousands of operational moments which impacts brand value. We bring it together and we start looking through the 10 dimensions of brand strength score of Interbrand. And again, here we are ranking each of the brands on each of these parameters. Again, if you would like to see, 5 is the score for Sephora for trust, 5.1 for Ulta, and for Sally it is 5.4. You would like to drill down, again, go down and see what are the actions you should be taking to improve your brand strength score. So now we have looked at this data, which is primarily brand experience for 27,000 plus customers through multiple different dimensions and lenses. Now, as a company or a brand, what should you be doing? The same question I asked in the beginning. What should a team should be doing in a company on a Monday morning to improve the brand value? So Clootrack and Interbrand won't be giving you another dashboard. We will be giving you these kind of action metrics, which tells you what is the action to be taken, what's important, why it happened, where it happened, and what to be done. And this is arrived at using AI reasoning on top of the data we give and adding on the Interbrand's experience on top of it. So if you can read this, the first action item out here, it talks about fixing frontline employee conduct. Then it talks about what is the top level issue in the employee conduct. Then it comes down to inconsistent training, entitlement cultures, manager issues, no visible accountability. Then it points out it is prominently seen in stores and so on. So yeah, Greg.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say you can stop sharing that. The notion has been that we've been working on this for 18 months, and so we have our own proprietary kind of algorithms on how we score brand strength, and we've ported those notions into your platform to create this kind of fused idea. But what it's really starting to open up are more specific ways to improve brand strength based on these real observations. And I think that's where we have gotten so excited, because now we have top down and bottoms up coming together. And I thought
Absolutely.
we might spend just a minute looking through those sample recommendations a little closer, right?
Yeah, let's do that. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I got it. I think I shared my screen out. And so when you start thinking about the experience journey, right? The first thing that came up, it was probably somewhere like 7,000 people mentioned like fix the frontline employee conduct, and that becomes what we can do. And then we start saying, okay, yeah, 7,000 people, and you get to very specific things that show up in the reviews about very individualized behavior and kind of why it happened, like what people are saying, what they're observing. So we're getting a totally different perspective from people who've actually experienced the brand, and more about how they see it rather than what they state they remember. And you feel that's a fair way to characterize it, Shamil?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And then you can see like the sources it came from, what do you do about it? And what I found fascinating, and I think it applies to almost all of the AI native things that are happening, is everything's contextual now, right? It's almost we're selling almost context as a service, right? Because everything's being examined all at the same time. And we used to look at data very siloed. We used to think, oh, it's horizontal or it's vertical data sets, but it's actually being flowed together. And what these what to dos are the things that got positive reviews from other sites where customers said, this is important to me. These things matter. This showed up as something. And then we've been able to correlate that to brand strength impact, which then, given our history and the data we have, we can forecast what that might mean for revenue, our margin, our share price. So now we've got this kind of broad ecosystem of data management that allows us to be more granular and proactive in how we're managing brand strength. And what do you have, Shamil? Most people are running this quarterly, some monthly. I'm sure some, we say the appetite comes with the food, right? Some people do it every week or day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It depends upon how fast the market is. But adding also to one more point, Greg, you mentioned about the context. That's a very, very important thing. With this kind of a system, contexts get deeper and deeper. So you see this what to do, which is coming out there, which is coming from Clootrack plus INTERBRAND's expertise. And what we also feed in there is what are the steps you have already taken. So it has got complete context of your business. We pull in your internal data as well. And we keep on tracking on a daily basis or on a regular basis to see like what movement is already undertaken and which we need not highlight. And what are the things which are missing? What's the context of the business? How the company operates? We pull in all this kind of information, and that's how we come up with what to be done. And it's just like a living engine, which ensures that your brand value is consistently kept to be the best value out there.
Yeah, and we just had another example. See if I can make this go forward. Again, like resolve payment and checkout friction, right? That seemed to be a big issue. 1,300 people. Like if you got that as in on your research sample, you go, wow, that's a big number. But almost 70% of it negative. And I think that sentiment tracking really is important, and the app is even worse in terms of negativity. Why it happened, you see all the things that happened, what went wrong, down to a brand team now being able to say to a product team, this is what's causing our brand to fail. And that's always been like the hardest journey to get, is to have, you need to improve. And now you can say why you need to improve or what you need to improve. And here's where we found the evidence. And these are the things that we think we need to do operationally to make things work better. Of course, there's a business case that has to be appended to any of the what to do's, but that allows us then to ladder back into a brand business case and make those stories. So there's a lot more of these, right? We have 3, but there's unlimited ways to think of the routes to fixing, and depending on the brand strength score and where the company is investing in terms of growing the brand. Like this isn't just the negatives, it's also how do we support the positives. We have a broad portfolio of things that we can look at. So I think where we're heading in terms of what we see this providing is kind of a second layer of brand management. So today we talk about brand in terms of strategy and creative and reach and frequency of like our marcoms and how we get to brand perceptions in the market. This allows us to look underneath and say, okay, how well are we executing? How well are we activating? What percent of the activation is positive? What percent of the activation is actually occurring? And allows our clients to update and assess their brand on a much more frequent basis. To Shamil's point, it could be quarterly, it could be annually. Some markets are 3-year purchase cycles, so that's much different. But I think that, is the energy that we're trying to convey, is that there's another cycle of brand management that helps make the business case. And I think the value proposition from us is like, this is much faster than research. The system be set up in a few days. It can be, running as frequently as we want. We think context as a service is a better solution than just research and just even having brand strength maybe all by itself. And then ultimately, if you have this on a recurring basis, it delivers more value quicker than syndicated tools. It's more intimate, personalized to the brand itself. And that's kind of where we were excited to have this session today. So I do see some questions in the chat. I'm going to stop sharing and see if what we've got and see if we can answer questions for people along the way. So the first one I can see is how long did it take you to develop the system? And it took us about 18 months, right? I think we had developed at INTERBRAND like an AI capability in-house. And I think the Omnicom platform allowed us to connect to folks like Clootrack. We looked at quite a few folks, but now we have what we call kind of the chain of thought. And I don't know if you want to talk about that, Shamil, about how all the things that we've been doing over the last 25 years have been kind of ported over to, how you're thinking in Clootrack.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the most important engine in this machine, which is the understanding layer, which we have. So this is the understanding layer we have built, by which what we're doing here is we are pulling in all the data what we have, and we have created this understanding layer by mapping the framework of INTERBRAND onto AI, and AI starts looking at scale on data using this lens. And this might look quite complex for you, but it is templatized and we can deploy onto any client within just a couple of hours, very, very fast. But to building it took like 18 months. So we had to refine it multiple rounds and so on. So this is the layer, or this is the workflow which looks at the data in multiple different dimensions and gets the insights out. And what AI does is AI reasons on top of this context.
Yeah, terrific. Yeah, that took a while. It's a lot of decision trees. We got another question. It says, how do we get the CFO and CEO interested in brand value as a business metric rather than a vanity metric? And I think we've really, over the past 5 years, at INTERBRAND have really tried to bolster the case for brand valuation as a business outcome metric. So I think we were positioned for a long time as looking at brand value as an asset, and it is, but it's also an income generator. And what we were seeing, especially around COVID, was the fact that brands' performance were moving up, but their share price wasn't moving up at the same rate. And we started to say there must be some disconnect between the market and what matters to the board and the CEO around share price and the value chain. And so you'll see that we published quite a few pieces on brand and share price. We have another one coming out next week. And I think the way in which we've gotten the CFO and CEO interested is no longer talking about brand in terms of likes and perceptions and NPS, but really talking about how any of these moves that we make for a brand translate into more revenue, better margins, less customer churn, and share price changes that are positive. So I think the next generation, that's kind of what we're calling kind of the economic management of brand, is that we as a discipline, marketing, communications, advertising, however you want to think about it, have to step into the business outcome realm and show that the things that Clootrack is showing show up in share price and are worth investing with a reasonable and reasoned business case around it. I don't know if you want to add to that, Shamil.
Nothing else to add. I think you have detailed it pretty well.
Yeah. So the next one was, would you be able to find enough data points for B2B businesses? The simple answer is yes. We've already been doing this in B2B, whether it be petroleum products or insurance products or software sales. There's no limit in terms of industry, and given the breadth of the Clootrack capability to look across all available insights, we're not finding that it's not feasible to do. And I don't know if you want to add some color to that, Shamil.
Compared to traditional methods like surveys and so on, when you start looking at all data points, companies do have enough data. So that's what we have figured out. And based upon the company, we'll identify the sources, we'll identify the various different touch points where we can collect data from, and we pool all these things together. And when you start doing it, it'll suddenly start becoming much bigger than the 500 sample size you get from surveys.
Yeah, and we didn't spend a lot of time on it, but it's probably worth re-mentioning is also the internal data hooks that are available, right? I think you have over 400 now. We met, it was like 125, but the internal data hooks can be to a CRM system, it can be to call center data, it can be to warranty databases. So we have not run into any upper bound or lower bound, however you want to think about it, in terms of data accessibility. Uh, Even if people don't want to share it internally, we can capture externally, but if we can link to the internal systems, we get very rich insights over and over again.
To add to Greg's point, when we connect to internal data, definitely one question which comes up is like, what about the security? So Clootrack has got all the security norms cleared. The data is in a separate tenant. The general 170, 200 risk assessment questions which come from every customer, we have been able to clear within like a 2 days kind of a time frame. Omnicom's risk assessment we have cleared,
You did
very
that.
easily.
It was not easy. Omnicom's tough. You cleared them twice now. You got your annual
Yes.
certification redone.
Yeah, we have done
Yeah.
it twice. So we are like fully set on that front as well.
Yeah, so I got another question here. It says, how does this brand experience and brand strength, drive brand strategy? And I think, I make this joke sometimes. AI changes everything and changes nothing, right? Because the foundations of brand management are still the same. Like you have to understand the human truths that are out there that are unresolved, that the brand's trying to address, but also then, linking all of this new information, this contextual information, the ability to process ideas faster, to deliver more creative in that same brand strategy process, but doing it much faster, richer, and with a lower delivery cost. So I think it's the framework that we think at Interbrand about brand management holds. It still holds, but the richness, the speed, the diversity of insights that we can deliver are much, much broader. And I think maybe you're seeing the same thing with some of your customers that we aren't involved in yet, Shamil.
Yeah.
Yeah, terrific. Then there's another question. I'd be interested to know if, in addition to social media data and customer data, are web sources included, such as like financial reports and websites? Absolutely. So one of the things that is taking place, not only from a Clootrack point of view, in what is being observed, we're also calibrating the observations that Clootrack is making with our BGB database that does capture all that, gets refreshed every year. And every quarter, but I mean, it's on an ongoing annual basis. So we not only have the live data sets that are taking place in this platform, but they're calibrated and verified against the longitudinal data we have from the BGB and Interbrand side. And so that creates a lot of confidence that we're getting similar and correct answers.
Yeah. And to add to Greg's point, when we deploy the system with each company, definitely depending upon the company, we'll have different kinds of data sets and different kind of preference for data sets. So what does the advantage the system brings in is you can add in.
I think we lost Shamil for a second.
Can you hear me?
You froze for a second. You froze for a second.
Oh, so sorry. So what I was saying is, when we deploy in a company, we get data specific to the company. Like, there'll be preference on what kind of data, what kind of sources. So we cover structured, unstructured, online, and internal data, which is the holistic set. And we make sure that it is like continuously pulling from all the data of your preference, plus the longitudinal data, BGP data, and so on. Like I said, it's a living system which can pull in all the data and make decisions for you.
We have another good question. Someone said, stretch this a bit further. They said, sorry, but you shouldn't be sorry. What do you think could this be potentially deployed for place and country level brands tracking voice of consumer across tourism? Absolutely, yes. I mean, we already do that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that this system can do, like it can be geo-fenced. right? So you can look at specific countries. So you could say, give me a global view and also give me country views and all of the things like are people willing to invest in our country? Is it easy to do business there? All of that can show up, as it's contextually pertinent. So that is a great question in the sense of how granular you can get on this. Like we started with an insurance company. We did a global piece. They're like, oh, we have 4 markets that are problematic. So we did the 4 markets. And I think that's where the extension of this thinking can go, because sometimes it's not really like there's something wrong with the brand, but there might be something wrong in a country that's hurting value creation. And Shamil, anything to add there?
Yeah, and in this regard, we have also seen spikes and dips depending upon various events as well. For example, after FIFA, is there a movement in brand value in the US and Mexico and Canada? And what if Taylor Swift is visiting someplace? Is there a difference? So we are able to track these kind of changes at a location specific basis, because like I said earlier, we are pulling in data which is relevant for assessing this and covering majority of those data, and then getting this insight. So you get to those nuances as to what is driving that brand value.
Yeah, and I think, the last point I'd make, it's related to this, but not so specific on country, is what this really gives people is the emergent phenomena, that can arise and fall before you could get to a quarterly brand tracker, right? And you can get early warnings, you can get quick responses. And I think all of that contextual awareness is really what makes this a powerful system that has some extendability as people start to see, hey, I'd like to fix this country, or I'd like to fix my brand, or fix my brand as a country. All those things are possible. I don't see any more questions. So we'll give, if anyone has any last minute things, but Shamil, any closing comments unless we get another question?
So we have been working on assessing experience for around like 8 years right now. And what we are seeing right now is like AI is taking us to a stage where we can do the impossible, which was impossible before. And what you're seeing here right now in terms of a brand experience operating system or a brand experience management system or something like that, because there was a time when I'm sure we were advising all the clients to set up certain operations, certain methods, and so on to improve their brand. But at the end of it, it all boiled down to, okay, running some brand campaigns at the end, which was not effective. So we are able to go much beyond that just because of AI and the right usage of AI, and foundationally powered by a data which has been proven for decades. So that's the beauty of this system, what we have built.
You've triggered some more questions, Shamil, so that's great. So one is brand is often viewed as a cost center. And what metrics are we finding with the C-suite to secure long-term investment? So the first finding that we didn't really talk about as part of brand strength is for every company to identify its role of brand. What percentage of the decision is owing to brand? I was working with a large industrial company who had $50 billion in revenue. And I said, okay, your role of brand's 20%. That's $10 billion. And I said, what would be your budget if you had $10 billion of equipment on a factory floor to maintain it? And they said, oh, about 10 times our marketing budget. I was like, that's my point, right? That like we marketing aren't treating the asset of brand at the level that the manufacturing sides or call centers are being considered, because they are linking themselves to revenue. So I think understanding role of brand and defining revenue is one of the most important things you can do. And that then ladders into our overall notion for the C-suite around share price changes and how this ladders to that. There's also, in that same question, we talked about setting up in a few days. What data inputs are required to get up and running quickly? I think it's really from a client perspective, what might be for a one-off, and essentially we need to know the brands, the market you're in, or if you want it to be global, who your competitors are, And that's essentially it, right? Shamil, I don't think there's much more to get going.
Yep.
Linking it to your internal sources, that's a little bit different, but it's not overly complicated as much as it just explaining the pathway to data connection. And so we can turn these systems on in 3 to 5 days and get some results within 2 weeks very, very easily with a very simple brief around a particular problem that you might be having. And I know, Shamil, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you can fill a form which will take less than 10 minutes for you to fill.
Yeah,
that's your kickoff. And if it is online data, we don't have anything. We just get started the right away. If it is internal data, we just require access for that. And that also is through connectors. We are not going to build anything new. We are just going to our connector and then put in the credentials and connect. That's it. So
yeah.
So that's the 2 weeks Greg was talking about.
Yeah. And there's another question now that says, do you see this as a replacement for more traditional brand tracking or complementary? That's a tough one. I think we probably feel it's over time going to be a replacement for 80% of the brand tracking. I think people are still going to want to know certain types of questions that you can't ask in this format. I'm not sure that the answers to those questions will maintain the same utility they have now. So if I said, where am I going to be able to manage my brand and be more impactful from the revenue and share price side, I would say it'd be in this tracking and the brand strength and improving that, because it's going to be more temporal and more dynamic and more evolving. But I'm not sure, at least in the next decade, that we're going to get rid of brand tracking because we have this. I think people have been trained to look for certain questions to be answered. I think there's a certain value in that, but I think the value of that relative to the revenue improvements and margin improvements we're seeing out of this system are going to look much smaller, and their utility will drop, but I don't think they'll go away. Okay. I think that's all. This is great to get all these questions and the feedback. For us, for Interbrand, it's just one more step in the way in which we got one last question. I think we're supposed to finish. Oh, I just had an issue with the calendar link and missed some of this. Will the recording be available? Yes, it will be available, and we'll be able to, if you'll just go back to where you registered and let us know you want to have a follow-up, we'll be sending out an email with the content, and we'll be glad to get on the phone and have a quick conversation to see what your needs are, explain any open questions with anyone who's been on the webinar. So we're right at time. We promised to finish, so you get a few minutes back. But thanks for coming. Thanks for letting us share this with you, giving us your time. I hope you found it valuable, and we look forward to connecting and discussing it in the future.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, terrific. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.